Hello, how are you doing? And in honor of the day in which we find ourselves, hola, as we say in Wayne County Spanish. My name is Brian Tripp, and I am the Front Porch Conservative. Welcome to a very special edition of Front Porch Brunch, our little weekend gathering where we get together to talk about items in the news. It is so good to see everybody here. We are on YouTube, we are on Rumble, we are on Twitter. So if you haven't done it yet, send out a tweet, send out a Gettr, send out a Gab, send out a Truth Social. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your frenemies. Get in here and let's have some good old-fashioned Cinco de Mayo style fun. Again, my name is Brian Tripp, and I am the Front Porch Conservative. This is Front Porch Brunch, where we're going to get together and hang out and talk about items in the news, and hopefully I will not be struck by lightning on the Lord's Day, since I'm apparently interfering or competing with the big guy. Really, it's no competition, but, you know, sometimes, as the Duke said, a man's got to do what a man's got to do, Pilgrim. Anyway, as I said, we're on YouTube, we're on Rumble, we are on Twitter. So, again, thank you for everybody who's here this morning, giving me a shout-out to the 199. Thank you, Z Highness. And good, there's a lot on the plate this morning, my dear. A lot on the plate, believe me. Good to have you here, Miss Gypsy, up in Connecticut. Glad to have you here as well. It looks like we're going to have a really good crowd. A lot of folks over on Rumble already. Glad to have them here. And good to be with all of you on this, a Mexican holiday celebrated in America. So, and with that in mind, I guess to sort of set the mood, I just want you to know that the former president, Donald Trump, has a message for everybody on this Cinco de Mayo. And it's better to say this message is more in the way of performance art. So it's probably better to show you than it is to tell you. So, folks, do me a favor, and I hope you enjoy the following.
La cucaracha, ya no puede caminar, porque no tiene, porque le falta.
He's got good dance moves for a guy his age.
La cucaracha, ya no puede caminar, porque no tiene, porque le falta marihuana que fumar.
Well, okay, there it is, folks. Our message from our former president. So we're glad to know that he is out there wanting to celebrate the day as much as we do. So there you go. Anyway, I hope your May the 5th, 2024 is a good one. Do you realize that officially July, August, September, October, 6 months. There we go. 6 months to the day. We are 6 months from Election Day as of this morning. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Anywho, we got a lot to talk about this morning, and I hope you guys are in a really good mood to do it. I want to start off with some things that kind of happened late last week and then build out from that. By way of some housekeeping announcements. Mark your calendars for this Wednesday at 7 p.m. A friend of this channel and probably one of the smartest commentators out on social media is going to be returning to the Electronic Front Porch. My good friend Christian Watson is going to be back this Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. I've got to put the thumbnail together for it today. But yeah, he'll be back this Wednesday at 7 o'clock. We're going to be talking about the protests that are happening on the college campuses, catch up with him, get his thoughts about what's going on in the presidential race and the country in general. And if you've ever had the chance to ever hear the inestimable Christian Watson, let me tell you something. That young man, and I'm not just saying this either, he is one of the smartest characters that I have ever come across. I have been privileged in the course of my life to be around and have conversations with some very smart people. Christian Watson is one of them. And I've said for a long time now that if if he keeps his head screwed on straight and nothing bad happens to him, that young man is going to do some truly remarkable things in his life before it's over with, and the contributions that he'll make not only to our political discourse but our intellectual discourse in this country could be absolutely amazing. So mark your calendars this Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. My good friend Christian Watson's coming back, and I'll do my best to keep up with him. He's got like a Ferrari styled engine, and my brain anymore. If brains are like car engines, he's got a Ferrari, and I've got a Pinto. All right, so that just tells. And there's something. Z Hines like, what's a Pinto? Honey, trust me, it's a car. It's an old car that has not been heard from in years, and there's a good reason for that. So yeah, I'll do my best with what brain wattage I've got left to try and keep up with Christian Watson. But he'll be back this Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, for a session of Chatting on the Porch, and I am really looking forward to having him here. And I also want to thank everybody who was able to be here for Chatting on the Porch this last Thursday when Robin McCutcheon came back on to talk economics. And let me tell you something. If you are not keeping up with Robin McCutcheon on social media, which she doesn't do a lot of social media, but when she does, the appearances that she makes, you need to listen to this woman, because she is probably one of those hidden gems that, when you find it, you should value it, because aside from her just honest take on everything, she's probably one of the most whip smart women you'll ever meet in America. And like I've always said, don't ever make the mistake of asking her what she really thinks unless you're ready to hear the answer, because God help you, she'll tell you exactly what she thinks. And she did. And for a good 2 hours, I had a blast. And I think everybody in the audience did as well. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she's one of my favorite people to have on. So she's just a joy. So yeah, and you talk about a clinic on the Federal Reserve System. Absolutely. Oh, okay. So that's by way of announcements and or items of interest for the immediate future. Let's get into this Sunday morning. And I've got, per usual, an absolute slew of tabs up here that, are all kinds of things to talk about, things that happened late last week, things that kind of happened in the middle of the week. I hadn't had a chance to touch on them. And these are really good. So let's start with something that everybody's fully aware of, but I'm not sure they realize how it's going. Much has been made about the various Trump trials around the country. Believe me, the commentary from myself and many other pundits out there has been long, loud, and vociferous about the fact that they shouldn't even be happening, the speciousness of the charges, the whole any number of things. And for all of the commentary about it, really there's only one trial that's actually taking place right now. And as you guys are fully aware, as part of this audience, that's up in Manhattan in front of Judge Don Juan Quixote Marchand, which is a combination nickname that myself and Mr. Goodnight gave to him. He was Goodnight. It may have been Zippy too. No, it's Zippy. I'm sorry, Zippy that threw into that nickname. Yes, in front of Judge Don Juan Quixote Marchand up in New York City, being prosecuted by the Manhattan District Attorney Alvin the New York Chipmunk Bragg. Well, this week they had a very sensational witness take the stand. And this is, I guess, going to serve as an example of here's what the news is reporting, and then here may be the reality of what actually happened. So let's start with Politico. Hope Hicks offers a glimpse of hope. Boy, I really screwed that one up. Let's start that one again. Hicks offers a glimmer of hope for Trump's defense. You see what they did there? They're clever little boys and girls with that headline. Oh, God. Anyway, the longtime Trump aide provided some ammunition to both the prosecution and the defense in the hush money trial. Article by Erica Orden, we have the following. In a trial that turns on a hush money payment to a porn star, Donald Trump loyalist Hope Hicks offered the emotional testimony Friday that portrayed him as a family man. The testimony of Hicks, Trump's former communications aide for the 2016 presidential campaign and his White House communications director, marked perhaps the first boost to Trump's defense since the trial started, even though she was called to the stand by the prosecution. Hicks was one of the most highly anticipated witnesses of the trial, which has now finished its third week. She spoke softly in her first few moments on the stand, admitting that she was nervous. Trump's lawyers have argued that Trump's motivation in seeking the silence, the accounts of two women, former Playboy model Karen McDougal and porn star Stormy Daniels, who claimed sexual encounters with him, wasn't to help his 2016 campaign, as prosecutors have alleged, but instead his defense attorneys have argued to protect his family. The motive is important because in trying to convict Trump of 34 felonies, prosecutors are seeking to link alleged fraudulent business records with violations of election law. During her roughly 3 hours of testimony, Hicks offered some ammunition for both sides. She testified that Trump told her in February 2018 that it was preferable that the Daniels story became public after the election instead of before it. But she also said his interest in suppressing the allegations from the women stemmed from his desire to shield his wife, Melania. After the Wall Street Journal published an article on November 4, 2016 that detailed the hush money payment to McDougal and mentioned Daniels, Hicks said Trump was concerned how it would be viewed by his wife and said Trump asked Hicks to ensure that newspapers weren't delivered to their residence that morning. She also testified that she didn't believe Trump was specifically concerned with how the story might impact his presidential campaign. Prosecutors have argued that in the wake of the Access Hollywood tape, which has been made public a few weeks earlier, Trump sought to conceal the other unflattering stories about his conduct with women to protect his political interests. But Hicks said Trump did not seem overly concerned about the public response to the tape, on which he is heard bragging about the women's genitals. She said, believed the tape wasn't good, but also pretty standard stuff between two guys chatting. Again, Hicks testified that Trump's main worry was his wife. Quote, President Trump really values Mrs. Trump's opinion, and she doesn't weigh in all the time, but when she does, it's really meaningful to him. He really, really respects what she has to say, she continued. I think he was just concerned about her perception of what this would be. Still, elements of Hicks' testimony are sure to help prosecutors' case. She described the fallout of the Access Hollywood tape as, quote, intense, so much so that it overtook coverage of a Category 4 hurricane that had been expected to make landfall on the East Coast. She recounted about how she and other campaign aides scrambled to respond to the revelation. Quote, there was consensus amongst all of us that the tape was damaging and this was a crisis, Hope Hicks said. And she recalled a conversation she had with Trump about a phone call he had had with his lawyer, Michael Cohen, the morning after Cohen told the New York Times that he alone had paid the $130,000 to Daniels without Trump's involvement. Mr. Trump was saying he had spoken to Michael and Michael had paid the women to protect him from false allegations, that Michael felt like it was his job to protect him and that was what he was doing, and that he did it out of the kindness of his own heart. He never told anybody about it. A little bit more to read here. Prosecutor Matthew Colangelo asked if that version of events was consistent with Hicks's perception of Cohen, and Hicks offered a response that suggested she didn't believe Trump's account of what had happened. Quote, I would say that it would be out of character for Michael. I didn't know Michael to be an especially charitable person or a selfless person, she just said, describing him as the kind of person who seeks credit. Hicks said that Trump told her, quote, that he thought it was a generous thing to do and he was appreciative of the loyalty. She also said Trump asked her if it was preferable that they were contending with the story after the election. Mr. Trump's opinion was that it was better to be dealing with it now than it would have been to deal with it before the election. Okay, let's get into this a little bit, okay? Now, that's Politico's version of what happened, and I have no doubt that Politico has probably got somebody either in the courtroom or right on the edge of it so they can hear what's going on and they can chronicle it as they see fit. Okay. Now, Remember what I said. There's what the press is telling you, and then here's what may be really going on. I take you to the live stream of Robert Goa Esquire, who I think up in Connecticut it's one of her favorites. And he had some commentary about this, which all of it's really, really good. But I want to play you a couple of clips because he makes a point that's going to be, how shall I say this, enhanced in something else that we're going to look at. So, folks, do me a favor and listen to these two clips.
Now, Ms. Hicks, in 2017, you didn't have anything to do with the business records of the Trump organization that was 200 miles away from you, did you? The business records. Did you have anything to do with those at all? No, I didn't. Great! Again, that's another good moment, man. This Emile Beauvais is pretty solid. No, I didn't. Oh, good, because this whole crime is about 34 business records. So what the hell are you doing here? No, I didn't have anything to do with them. No further questions. Thank you for your irrelevant testimony. Now,
okay, that's the first clip. Now let's get to the second one. Folks, do me a favor. This is toward the end of his video here. Check this out.
that was day 11. Hope Hicks was on the stand, and you can see that was kind of short. And I thought that Beauvais did a very nice job. Do you have anything to say about these business records, so-called? Do you have any role in those? Know anything about them? Nothing. Nothing at all. Okay, great. Not even relevant. Why are we here? Looked at the jurors. Sorry for wasting your time with another witness. We'll see who comes up next when we are back here on Monday. Thank you for joining us as we do. We're just getting started on this trial. We'll be covering it in depth just like this. So thanks for sticking around and following along. We appreciate you.
Okay. You see the point that he's making here, and it's a point that's perfectly valid. If you're the prosecution, why are you bringing up a witness who adds nothing to your case? Let me say that again. If you're the prosecution, why are you bringing up somebody that has absolutely nothing of relevance to contribute to the weightiness of the case you're trying to make against Donald Trump? Now, I can almost hear, proponents of this trial right now as they say, well, she's just setting the table. She's setting the table with her testimony, and then Michael Cohen is going to come in and deliver the goods. Oh, you mean the convicted perjurer, Michael Cohen? Oh, you mean the guy who out there is probably violating whatever legal ethics he's got left by constantly commenting about a case that he can talk about and Donald Trump can't? That Michael Cohen? This is your star witness. And by the way, lest you think that I am being, way too critical of Cohen, may I respectfully point out that there are legal scholars far better than I am, and I do not count myself as a legal scholar, by the way. I just count myself as a commentator. That there are legal scholars like Jonathan Turley and others who are looking at this going, really, your star witness is a convicted perjurer, and you're going to put him in a courtroom and expect him to make this thing work? But laying aside Michael Cohen and his failings as a witness or failings otherwise as a lawyer or a man, let's just get back to Hope Hicks for a second. I'm sorry to the folks at Politico or any place else. If that's what Hope Hicks was truly asked, and like I say, we're not in the courtroom. We don't know. We're not there to see it. Then if this is what she was asked and that's how she answered it, it is a real stretch to sit here and make the argument that somehow Hope Hicks helped out the prosecution on this. And lest you think, again, that I'm being overly sensitive about this or I'm being too pro-Trump, Greg Jarrett, who, yes, he works for Fox News, but Greg Jarrett is about as straightforward a legal commentator as you can get. He's got a piece on foxnews.com, and I want to share parts of it with you because this is really interesting. I thought you guys might want to take a look at this on your own. Headline, New York versus Trump. Bragg's own witness Hope Hicks implodes the case against Trump. Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg should turn himself into authorities for impersonating an honest lawyer. Ooh, that was nasty. All right, let's see what he's got to say. I want to go deep into this article because he brings up a valid point that I think really, really ought to be mentioned. I want to start right here. It was foolhardy for Bragg's legal team to call Hicks a rank amateurish mistake. Her testimony was redundant and unnecessary, but under the theory that no dead horse will be left unbeaten, prosecutors seem determined to have her tell the jury what they already knew. Hicks confirmed that Trump was aware that Cohen paid off Daniels to end what can fairly be described as an aggressive blackmail demand. When the election drew near, Daniels ratcheted up her greedy scheme to profit from Trump by threatening to go public about a supposed affair, which he denied. Not incidentally, she renounced the purported tryst. Then, in a head-spinning maneuver, she recanted her repudiation. The payment to Daniels, now listen to this, the payment to Daniels, regardless of its intent, proved to be a waste of money. While the National Enquirer never published her story, Hicks testified that other news outlets did so in advance of the election. In the end, it didn't seem to matter much to voters who were more invested in policy ideas rather than personal issues. The unlikable Hillary Clinton was also a factor. It is worth repeating that the jury already knows all about the Daniels transaction. It's been the subject of endless discourse by other witnesses since the trial commenced. This makes Hicks' testimony superfluous, and it proves nothing. Of course, Trump knew about the payments. He didn't contest that. He doesn't contest that. He says he followed his lawyer's advice, who handled everything. So what? The payments were not illegal. Listen to this. The payments were not illegal. Non-disclosure contracts in exchange for silence are not unlawful. Killing negative stories violates no statutes. More to the point, it is not a crime for Trump to know about a non-crime. This would be a senseless syllogism. So where exactly is the crime? To quote a memorable line from Shakespeare in Love, I don't know, it is a mystery. There is, however, no mystery behind Alvin Bragg's politically driven prosecution of Trump. And on he continues to go, which with criticism that I think everybody here has. Let me see if there's anything else in here I really want to mention. No, that should do it. Yeah, I mean, look, Hope Hicks did nothing for the prosecution here. And I'm not saying that because I'm per se pro-Trump in this election. But if that was indeed her testimony, and that's it, and then you're trying to take certain quotes of hers that she gave on the stand and stretch them out by some weird, convoluted, oh my God, I can't believe this, then I'm sorry, that's just not going to work. As a matter of fact, I'm not the only one who thinks that. Even the folks over at CNN who are probably sitting there going, he's finally on the stand. We finally got him. He's in the courtroom. We're going to get him. Even they're sitting there going, what? Check this out. This is from a couple of days ago. I'm sorry, 3 days ago. This would have been Thursday. Do me a favor. Check this out. It runs about 30 seconds.
And I think on that point, I've seen precious little evidence presented yet that Trump wasn't floating above. I mean, I've seen very little evidence of Trump's direct involvement in getting this accomplished. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you're right. A lot of that's going to come from Michael Cohen, but also there was a few tidbits in David Pecker's testimony, right? That there were direct communications, but it's a great point, David. There hasn't not been much evidence yet directly of Donald Trump's involvement and knowledge.
Well, and I think on that.
And there you go. Look, as I said, there are commentators far better than I am at this point who are making, appropriate and pertinent observations. Not to say that mine aren't, don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to humble brag, but my point is this. Most legal scholars, be they on the left or on the right, are looking at this case going, you've got to be kidding me. Now, I will almost guarantee you I know what's going to happen. Okay, check this out. The day Michael Cohen takes the stand And for however long he's up there, you're going to think that he is the legal equivalent in the 21st century of, Whittaker Chambers. And for those of you who may not remember Whittaker Chambers, legendary witness who basically proved communist involvement and that communists were getting, state secrets about nuclear weapons, etc. This was way back in the 50s, 1950s, I should say. He's going to be canonized and lionized. Okay. Every legal sin that Michael Cohen has committed is going to be glossed right over, and you're not even going to hear about it. All we're going to hear about is, oh my God, this is the most damning testimony yet in this trial. Can you believe what is being done here? Oh my God. And may I remind you what Greg Jarrett, Jonathan Turley, Alan Dershowitz, Robert Grover, Joe Neerman of aka Good Logic, what everybody's already saying. Payments for silence are not illegal. And furthermore, it's not illegal for him to list them as legal expenses. Trump's people did nothing wrong, but let's just even assume that they did, at least as far as the book entries in the accounting. In New York, that's a misdemeanor offense. And under New York law, statute of limitations ran out on that a long time ago. Yeah, but it's not a federal crime. The only reason this is even a crime right now is they're trying to make the argument somehow, some way, that they had the ability to read Donald Trump's mind, and they know that it was his express desire to take these payments to Stormy Daniels and say he was doing this to try to influence the 2016 election. Yeah, they did one problem. Payments were made after 2016. Well, that's what they're going to try and argue. That's what they're going to try and argue. But no, I mean, for men in the chat, and I know you're out there, bless your hearts. How many times, for better or worse, right or wrong, have you tried to, I don't want to put this, how many times have you tried to make sure your wife didn't find out about something on the grounds that you knew you were going to make her mad? So Donald Trump had the same reaction that most men have in trying to either protect his wife or, at a purely selfish level, protect himself from his wife finding out about these stories. And the crime in that is what? I mean, I know up in Connecticut, I know what you're saying. So don't get me wrong. I'm not saying you're necessarily wrong in what you're saying. But I mean, if that's the argument that the people who want to prosecute Trump are going to make, then I guess every man in America at one point ought to be locked up. Because wives, girlfriends, doesn't matter. Okay, every man in America and around the world has had that notion go through their head at one time or another during the course of their relationship and or their marriage to their significant other. I'm not laughing at what happened. I'm just laughing at the way you phrase that. I love you, dear. So just understand. Yeah, I mean, yeah, she's sitting there crying to the point Marshawn had to do a recess just to let her compose herself, So, yeah, the crappiness goes on. On a side note, however, speaking of the Trump trials, there was something that came out this week as it relates to one of the other trials that may have the potential to get the whole daggone thing killed off. Did you guys hear about what's coming out of Florida? This is from justthenews.com. It's written by John Solomon himself. Headline, Trump whodunit. Now listen to this. Prosecutors admit key evidence in the documents case has been tampered with. Legal experts call revelation a serious violation as Jack Smith's team admits it also misled the court. Oh, crap. In a stunning admission, special counsel Jack Smith's team is admitting that key evidence in former President Donald Trump's classified documents criminal case was altered or manipulated since it was seized by the FBI, and that prosecutors misled the court about it for a period of time. Legal experts told Just the News the revelation could prove to be a serious problem for prosecutors and a violation of court rules to preserve evidence in the state it was seized. In a new filing Friday, Smith's team said that the order of documents in some of the boxes of memos that were seized by the FBI from Trump's Mar-a-Lago estate was altered or jumbled, leaving two different chronologies, one that was digitally scanned and the other the physical order in the boxes. Quote, since the boxes were seized and stored, appropriate personnel have had access to the boxes for several reasons, including to comply with orders issued by this court in the civil proceedings noted above for investigative purposes and to facilitate the defendant's review of the boxes, Smith's team wrote in a new court filing to U.S. District Judge Aileen Cannon. There were some boxes where the order of items within the box is not the same as is in the associated scans. Smith's team is in a footnote also concealed that it had misled the court about the problem by previously declaring the evidence had remained in the exact state in which it had been seized. The government acknowledges that this is inconsistent with the government counsel's previously understood and represented by the court, the footnote added. Reading a little further into the article, several legal experts told Just the News the court filings essentially are an admission of evidence tampering and could be problematic. Quote, prosecutors and investigators should never tamper with or alter evidence in their possession, including the order of documents in a box, because one never knows what may become relevant or crucial to court or a jury later in the case, said Harvard Law Professor Emeritus Alan Dershowitz. Prominent defense attorney Tim Parlatore, who worked on Trump's team earlier in the classified documents case but no longer is involved, said, this admission is stunning on multiple levels. He said the revelation reinforces the incompetence of prosecutors in conducting basic criminal investigations and prosecutions that I observed when I was on the team. But at a deeper level, the loss of specific document locations is a destruction of exculpatory evidence. I went through all the boxes at National Archive record at NARA, and the document order was important because it was clear to us that the boxes had been untouched since leaving the White House. For prosecutors who are trying to prove that the defendant knowingly possessed these documents, then to destroy the evidence that would undermine that claim is a very serious violation. Oh, boy. And on it goes. Let me tell you something. Just absolutely amazing. So those are some quick updates we got about what's going on with the Trump trials. And with that, we're going to shift gears. But before we do me a favor. If you're out there and you're watching right now, it doesn't matter if you're on YouTube or you're on Rumble, smash the like button, hit that thumbs up. It really helps out with the algorithm. If you haven't done it yet, share it around to as many places as you can. And I would really appreciate it. But definitely above all else, hit that like button. I would love, and this is not a comment about anybody in particular. This is just, one of my goals. I would love that for every person who views the video to give it a thumbs up. I really would. But, sometimes it doesn't always happen, but I want to get as many likes on my videos and live streams as I can, so I'd appreciate it. So before we shift gears, let me do one real quick commercial here. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. This is a Sunday morning edition of Front Porch Brunch, where we are discussing items in the news. We are on YouTube, we are on Rumble, we are on Twitter. So if you haven't done it yet, send out a link to your friends, tell them to come on in. Let's have some fun talking about items that are going on. So I want to shift gears, and I want to get into something that happened on Wednesday in the U.S. House of Representatives, which is always a interesting place. these days for any number of different reasons. The House passed a bill that, well, let's put it this way. I've got some problems with. And the funny thing about it is, I find myself allied with people I never thought I'd be on the same side of the argument with. But when you start going through their arguments, it starts making a whole lot of sense. I want to take you to thehill.com. Headline: House approves Anti-Semitism Bill amid pro-Palestinian campus protests. Article written by Michael Schnell and Lexi Lanus. We have the following. The House approved a bill Wednesday that seeks to crack down, on anti-Semitism on college campuses, a measure that hit the floor as pro-Palestinian protests roiled universities across the country. The chamber approved the bipartisan legislation titled the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act and introduced by Representative Mike Lawler, Republican of New York, in a 320 to 91 vote, sending it to the Senate for consideration. 21 Republicans and 70 Democrats opposed the measure. Now, that seems a little unusual, because on its face, I think everyone would generally concede anti-Semitism is a bad thing. We should all be against it, regardless of where a person finds themselves on this question of Hamas versus Israel. And I think that the basic reasons would be simple enough to understand, in that, no one wants to be encouraging or be associated with racism. Okay, so why are 70 Democrats and 21 Republicans opposing this? Well, give me a second, folks, and we're going to get into that. The bill would require the Department of Education to use the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance's working definition of anti-Semitism when enforcing the anti-discrimination laws. Now, I want to pull back for a second, and I want to show you exactly how that reads. The International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance has a website, and this is their working definition of anti-Semitism. Quote, anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward the Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. Now, I want to read that again. Anti-Semitism is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred toward Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, towards Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. I'm going to say something before I really dig into this subject and give you my take on it. That definition scares me to death. I'm sorry, it does. A certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism. What is that? Now, that said, I understand that every situation ought to be looked at in its context. Every statement ought to be looked at in its context. But that definition seems mighty, mighty broad to me. Now, I don't know about you guys, but this is where I come down on it. If that's the standard that we're going to use to define anti-Semitism, and I may be getting a little bit ahead of myself here, but what the hell, we're already here. If that's the standard we're going to use and say, here's your definition for anti-Semitism, that's a problem. Because that thing is so overly broad. You could make an argument if a person says a critical statement about anything related to the Jewish people. You're engaging in anti-Semitism. Wait a minute. This is legitimate criticism. This is not anti-Semitism. Oh, no. You said something, a perception of the Jews. You gave a rhetorical manifestation. So now let's get back to that article from thehill.com. The bill would, let's see. Okay, here we go. The organization provides a number of examples for what qualifies as anti-Semitism, including calling for the harming of Jews in the name of racial ideology or an extremist view of religion, and accusing Jewish individuals as inventing or exaggerating the Holocaust. The vote took place as a wave of pro-Palestinian protest on dozens of college campuses nationwide have escalated in recent days, with some demonstrators' rhetoric veering into anti-Semitism. Demonstrators took over a building at Columbia, prompting a police response. Lawmakers have waded into the fray, with some defending the protesters but many condemning them. Mike Johnson, Republican Louisiana, who's Speaker of the House, led a group of GOP lawmakers to Columbia last week, where the members slammed the protesters and called on them to go back to class. A group of Jewish House Democrats did the same days earlier. On Wednesday, hours before the anti-Semitism vote, a group of House Republicans who sit on the Oversight Committee visited George Washington University. A handful of progressive Democrats and conservative Republicans opposed legislation over concerns that it would chill free speech. Representative Matt Gaetz, Republican of Florida, called the legislation, quote, a ridiculous hate speech bill. Quote, anti-Semitism is wrong, but this legislation is written without regard for our Constitution, common sense, or even the common understanding of the meaning of words, he wrote on the social media platform Twitter. Another representative, the rise of anti-Semitism in America, especially on college campuses, is abhorrent and disgusting, but I will not violate my constitutional principles to vote for a bill that tramples on the First Amendment and won't make a positive impact on the issue, said Representative Lauren Boebert, Republican Colorado, and my future ex-wife, as she echoed that comment in a post on Twitter. Now, here is where I never thought I'd ever be allied with certain people. Check out who else is opposed to this. Representative Gerald Nadler, Democrat of New York, said despite having devoted much of his life to combating anti-Semitism, he was against the misguided bill and threatened to chill constitutionally protected speech. Quote, speech that is critical of Israel alone does not constitute unlawful discrimination. By encompassing purely political speech about Israel into Title VI's ambit, this bill sweeps too broadly, he said in a statement on the House floor. Representative Delia Ramirez, Democrat of Illinois, said in a statement this raised concerns about conflating anti-Semitism with criticisms of the Israeli state. Quote, while we must unequivocally stand against Islamophobia and anti-Semitism in all their forms, it is dangerous to conflate anti-Semitism with the criticism of the Israeli state or the extreme and xenophobic nationalist policies they have purported. Nationalist movements deny our shared humanity and interconnectedness. Criminalizing young people who are using their voices to call for peace endangers both the well-being of the students and the health of our multiracial, multicultural democracy. Okay, let's get into this. You know what? I am surprised to say this, but I really agree with Nadler and Ramirez on this one. They're right. I mean, look, that definition, and I want to go back to it again. I want to show it to you. I want you to see it for yourself. This is the definition that this bill would give for anti-Semitism: a certain perception of Jews, which may be expressed as hatred toward the Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals, their property, toward the Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. Okay. Again, I'm sorry, that definition is overly broad. It really is. I think Matt Gaetz is right. I think all the opponents of this thing are right. You know, and I love Ramirez's comment, although I disagree with some of it. You can have legitimate criticism of the government of Israel and not be anti-Semitic. Okay? Which I think in one form or another, a lot of people have criticisms of the government of Israel right now. But does that mean they're anti-Semitic? No, it just means they have objections to the way that the government of Israel is prosecuting this war with Hamas right now. So does that mean that, those of us who have criticisms with the government of Israel are anti-Semitic? No, absolutely not. But if this bill becomes law, at least where colleges are concerned, yeah, this is the standard they're going to enforce. Now, I mentioned that Christian Watson is coming back on here Wednesday. Well, he had a take on this whole thing. He's got a fabulous video about this, which I'll drop the link to it in chat right now. I recommend you go watch it because this is Christian Watson at his finest. I want to play a snippet of this and let you guys hear what he's got to say. His reasons for opposing the bill are not the same as mine, but I want you to hear his take on it. So check this out.
I reject the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act, so to speak, primarily because I understand that the bill is not about anti-Semitism. The bill is about continuing to influence American education to the tune of those who don't actually care about anti-Semitism. They don't actually care about protecting Jewish people. They care about maintaining hold over their power. We should all oppose anti-Semitism. We should all, in our own personal lives, oppose it. And our own societies oppose it. But you're not going to do that by furthering the Prussian system, which has allowed universities to become dens for the kind of behavior and ideologies, like whether it be anti-Semitism, whether it be DEI or social justice, or whether it be racism against people. Universities have been facilitating this conduct for so long under the guise of virtue. You don't actually beat the ills by continuing to fuel the sickness. That's why I oppose this bill. That's why I'm against this bill. And I think that every American who really believes in the principles of our country should have the same mentality.
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why Christian Watson is probably one of the best commentators on the whole of social media. I dropped the link for his comments in both YouTube and Rumble. Check them out. Yeah, this is a bad idea. This is with much legislation that's out there, it is a bad idea. Or let me rephrase it. A well-intentioned idea, very badly executed on. And Gypsy brings up a very valid comment. Problem, reaction, solution equals, yep. You're not wrong, dear. You are not wrong at all. So, yeah, like I said, Christian and I oppose this for different reasons, but for my part, yeah, this is a bad idea. And personally, I hope Chuck Schumer, and it would be against his political interest to do it. But if Chuck Schumer were asking for my advice, I'd tell him, hey, Chucky baby, don't even bring this one up. Don't touch it. Let it go. It is absolutely not worth it. Terrible bill. Bad idea on so many different levels. Oh, goodness. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's shift gears a little bit, and I want to talk about some things that are going on with Biden and things that are going on with Trump, broadly speaking, in the context of a political campaign. And I'll drop a quick commercial here. My name is Brian Trippett. I'm the Front Porch Conservative. You just happened to stop by. This is Front Porch Brunch, our weekend review of things going on in the news. We're glad to have you here. If you haven't done it yet, hit the like button. I'd genuinely appreciate that. We're on YouTube. We're on Rumble. We are on Twitter. Always glad to have you here. So let's shift gears and talk about things related to Biden and Trump in the context of the 2024 campaign. All right. Now, I'm going to start this out with a discussion of some news that broke on Friday. And I have no doubt that Dr. Robin McCutcheon has seen this already. And I have no doubt she's going to be commenting about it in front of her class on Monday, assuming she's still, she's starting her summer class. I have no doubt somewhere, someplace, she's commenting about this to somebody. Did you guys happen to see the jobs report that came out? I tell you what, it has been kicked around for quite some time now that there is a distinct possibility of an economic downturn that could happen this year. And by the way, before y'all haters out there start hating on me, hey, I don't want to see this happen. Okay. I really don't. Not for anybody, not for me, not for you, not for anybody else. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So you've seen them, dear. You know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who haven't, we were expecting a much rosier report on the April job numbers. Oh, God. Check this out. Headline from CNBC. U.S. job growth totaled 175,000 in April, much less than expected, while unemployment rose to 3.9%. Now, I want to do something real quick before we get any further into this article, okay? Anytime a jobs report comes out, everybody looks at the immediate headline, which is understandable. I do the same thing, okay? I'm not saying that people are necessarily wrong. I'm just saying it might be better for all of us if we dig deeper into this stuff. And what I'm talking about specifically are the revisions. Now, I'm going to show you a chart, and I bring this up for a very particular reason. Doesn't matter, and I'm going to be perfectly blunt about this. It doesn't matter if it's a Democrat administration or a Republican administration, because they both do the same thing. Everybody makes hay out of that top line number. The U.S. economy gained 275,000 jobs in the month of blah, 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 whatever it may be, right? Well, you have to wait a little bit because there are revisions that always happen. And usually that number of, just in the sake of the example I just gave, that 275,000, those numbers are revised down. How badly could they be revised down? Let me show y'all something. This chart that I'm going to put up here is a jobs report revision chart that runs all the way from January of 23 to current. Okay. Notice what's happening here. In January 23, 517,000 jobs. Revised down totally by 45,000. Now, 472 is not a bad number. I mean, don't get me wrong, but what happens when you start getting smaller and smaller numbers? Now, there are some months when, when all the data shakes out, you have moments when the U.S. economy gains jobs, even after 2 months of revisions. But more often than not, you see what's going on here. Like, take June of 2023, for example. The initial reading was 209,000 jobs created. By the time that 2 months go by and all the revisions are put in and all the numbers are actually known, the reality is the U.S. economy only gained 105,000 new jobs. And on and on and on it goes. So you got a number now of 175,000 jobs being created for April 2024. I'm going to be very curious to see what this looks like come August. July or August, one of the two, but I'm pretty sure. Yeah, probably July, the July jobs report. I'll be very curious to see what this looks like. So let's get into this article from CNBC, and then we'll talk about, more about what it means, at least in the context of the current political campaign. This is an article by Jeff Cox at CNBC. Non-farm payrolls increased by 175,000 a month April, down from 240,000. Unemployment ticked up to 3.9%. Consistent with this trends, healthcare led job creation with a 56,000 rise. Other sectors showed significant increases, including social assistance, transportation, warehouse, etc. Following the report, traders priced in a strong chance of 2 interest rate cuts by the end of 2024. It's not going to happen, y'all. The Fed is not going to cut rates. If they do, I'll be shocked. I will really be shocked. Because it's like Dr. McCutcheon was saying the other night. If they raise the rates, it makes things worse. If they lower the rates, it fuels the inflation. The Fed is stuck. They are stuck until something happens that changes the dynamics of the situation. So this whole thing about, traders think there are going to be 2 rate cuts by the end of 24, it ain't happening. I mean, I'm sorry. I just don't see this happening, but that's just me. U.S. economy added fewer jobs than expected in April, while the unemployment rate rose, lifting hopes that the Federal Reserve will be able to cut interest rates in the coming months. Non-farm payrolls went up by 175,000, below the 240,000 estimate from the Dow Jones Consensus. The Labor Department's Bureau of Labor Statistics reported Friday. Unemployment rate ticked up to 3.9% against expectations that it would hold steady at 3.8. Okay. All right. Now, that's one piece of news. So what else is going on that may or may not be affecting Biden going into the election? Well, from CBS News, remember what I said about the Federal Reserve? Okay. This came out on Wednesday, May the 1st, from CBS News. Federal Reserve rate holds rate steady. Here's what that means for your money. Article by Amy Pichet. Federal Reserve officials said they were leaving their benchmark rate untouched, noting that progress in taming U.S. inflation has stalled. The Fed on Wednesday said it is keeping the federal funds rate in the range of 5.25% to 5.55%, the same level it's held since the central bank's July 2023 meeting, which is its highest level in more than 20 years. Economists had largely expected their decision, given that the inflation had ticked upward in the first 3 months of 2024. Okay. So you've got inflation creeping up. You've got the Fed holding fast on interest rates, which means nobody's going to get any relief anytime soon. And you got a job market that just took a gut punch in that the number of jobs created were less than what was expected, and that's before the revisions. Now, again, I do not want to see this happen to anybody individually, and I don't want to see it happen to my country. And you know what? If I'm wrong that there is no major economic downturn that's coming, later this year, I will be very happy to be wrong. Some people, make comments that, people on social media like myself who do political and economic commentary like, oh, you guys are just praying for bad news. No, I'm not. I want my country and my countrymen to be happy and prosperous. I want people to be able to enjoy a good standard of life, free from fear of crime, free from fear of any problems. I mean, I'm not saying I'm asking for paradise on earth, but I'd like to think that, people in my homeland can enjoy a nice life, raise their families, have fun, not be constantly looking over their shoulder, worrying. Am I going to lose my job? Am I going to be able to get a loan at the bank? If I do get a loan at the bank, what kind of interest rate am I going to be paying? That kind of stuff. So now, that sets up some comments about what's going on with Biden, and none of it for him right now is good. This is from Politico. Biden hoped for a big economic story to tell. Now he's going small. The president is getting more micro in his economic sales pitch as the landscape loses its luster. Oh, by the by, and I'm sure you guys have noticed this because you're one of the smartest audience on the internet. Have you noticed that Biden, his White House team, Democrats, etc., nobody is using the expression Bidenomics anymore? They have ditched that expression. And there's been various articles out for past 2 months now saying, the political consulting team. Excuse me. Yeah, the political consulting teams on Capitol Hill and various other places are telling them, don't use the phrase Bidenomics. Don't talk about it. And they've ditched it. They're not even mentioning it. That's how bad and toxic that phrase is. Let's go back to the article. Written by Adam Cancryan. Okay. President Joe Biden began the year confident that his lengthy war on inflation was nearing a desired end, but it hasn't materialized yet, and it's forcing Biden to adjust what he and his team thought would be a winning economic message for them in this election season. Biden has begun adopting a more surgical approach when talking about the economy, highlighting specific areas where the administration has made strides in easing costs for some voters, regardless of the broader conditions affecting the electorate as a whole. He used several days in late March and early April to focus on policy accomplishments in healthcare, where his team believes he holds a critical advantage over Donald Trump. He traveled to labor strongholds to tout local infrastructure projects and semiconductor investments. He's delivered a single-issue remark on taxes and childcare and starred in campaign videos with individual people benefiting from his policies. What he has done less of is stress the broad elements that he had championed earlier in his campaign when he first boasted about Bidenomics, and after that didn't stick, devoted key segments of his stump speech to rattling off facts and figures meant to demonstrate the economy's strength. The shift to a more targeted message represents the latest indication that Biden and his team have yet to find their footing on the economy, and that one of their biggest campaign hopes, that a strong economic outlook would rally voters behind Biden, may not actually materialize. Well, I got bad news for him. It ain't materializing. You all have heard me mention Rich Barris, the People's Pundit, my favorite pollster to follow in times like this. And he makes a very valid point. Perception has set in. Now, he's talking about it in terms of, just broadly about the two combatants in this race, Biden and Trump. I would argue perception has set in on the economy. I don't know that there's any piece of news that starts to shake the American people from the idea that we're dealing with a very bad economy. And even if there were a piece of news, one piece of news isn't going to do it. You'd have to have months and months and months and months of this for people to see a pattern whereby they could say, hey, I think Joe Biden's doing a pretty good job on the economy. It ain't happening, folks. And again, I'm not saying this with any joy. I'm really not. Worst of all, if the economic circumstances that we were facing as Americans right now were because of something beyond anybody's control, in the purest hypothetical sense, okay? In the purest hypothetical sense, if what we are experiencing right now were beyond the control of any government official, in other words, things they could have done, things they could not have done, okay, you might be able to give Biden a pass on the economy and how bad it is right now. Or another way of looking at it, think of it like this. If the bad economy had just started in January of this year, okay, you could also give Biden a pass on the argument, well, he hasn't had enough time to put a policy solution in place. And, if he has, you haven't had a chance for the effect of it to kick in yet. The problem for Biden is the economic calamities that we find ourselves in right now, I won't say are totally of his doing, but they most certainly are largely of his doing. Remember, the moment he took his hand off the Bible, having it sworn in, he strolls over to a room, he starts signing off on all these executive orders, which undoes certain Trump policies on energy. I mean, how many different examples of things do, we need to remind ourselves of that Joe Biden did by his own hand. And when you run them out to their obvious economic conclusion, you see that they've made the economy worse. And that is what makes the contrast for the coming election this fall so radically different than most other campaigns that we've had in recent American history. I mean, you and I have been talking about this, for months now, since this channel's been up, and other commentators have been saying the same thing. If it were an issue that you had incumbent President Joe Biden on one side, and you had challenger Donald Trump on the other, with Donald Trump trying to make the argument, hey, my policies will do this and this and this, you need to vote me in because the other guy's policies, they suck. That'd be one thing. But this election is so radically different in this respect. You've got incumbent Joe Biden on one side, and you've got former President Donald Trump on the other. The voters are going to get a clear, clean look at their records. It doesn't matter whose polling you're looking at. Okay? There's a constant theme. There are many different themes that are coming through, but there's one of them that's constant. People look at and remember Donald Trump's tenure in office fondly, especially on the issue of economics. Ask any voter the question in complete confidentiality. Ask them any question. And the question is, were you better off under Donald Trump's economy than you are currently right now under Joe Biden's? I would be shocked if less than 8 out of 10 said, yeah, I was better off under Joe Biden's economy. Or excuse me, I was better off under Donald Trump's economy. You might get a handful of people, and I guarantee you I know the demographic that'll answer this. Upper income individuals will say, well, it really made no difference. I didn't have these problems. Yeah, to people who are upper income, they might not be having problems under Joe Biden's economy. They've got the financial wherewithal and the financial resources to make that work. But for most Americans, they're having to choose between what kind of food they eat and what kind of clothes they put on their kids' back. They're having to work 2 or 3 jobs. Go through the list of examples of stories that you've heard, maybe in your own life, maybe in my life, maybe in the life of our friends. And they're all, they're like, this economy sucks. And now you've got a confluence of things starting to come together. Now, again, maybe this jobs report was a one-off. Okay. And again, I hope it was. Okay. But if we're about to get a downturn in job creation, coupled with high inflation, coupled with interest rates that aren't going anywhere, oh baby, this is about to get bad. This is about to get really bad. So, what else is going on with Joe Biden? Well, slightly off topic. Biden finally decided to come out and speak out against violence on college campuses. Thank God. He found his voice. Seems he finds his voice to talk about anything else, particularly MAGA Republicans, but he found his voice on this one. This is from Politico. Check this out. Jennifer Habercorn and Jonathan Lemire. On Wednesday morning, after the protests had been cleared up at Columbia's Hamilton Hall, Joe Biden told a group of senior aides he wanted them to begin writing up initial remarks about the wave of college demonstrations roiling the country. He wanted to have something ready to go just in case it was needed. By Wednesday evening, Biden was working through the text to put his own touches on it, but he was unsure if a speech would need to be delivered, according to 2 administration officials familiar with the process who were granted anonymity to discuss private conversations. Then pandemonium broke out at UCLA. By Thursday morning, Biden was having seen the violent clashes at the campus on cable news, made his decision he would give the address. Unbelievable. Unbelievable, this guy. Protests have been going on now for what, 2 or 3 weeks? And now he finally decides to say something about it. But it doesn't stop there. Check this one out. J.D. Vance blasts Joe Biden giving Americans hard-earned money for DACA illegal aliens via Obamacare. Senator J.D. Vance has accused Joe Biden of giving American taxpayers hard-earned money to illegal aliens enrolled in the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals DACA program through tax breaks included in the Affordable Care Act known as Obamacare. On Friday, Joe Biden finalized a rule that opens up Obamacare to DACA illegal aliens. In response, Vance said the move shows the administration is focused on aiding illegal aliens while Americans are being left behind. This is a story by John Binder. Yes, Your Highness, we the people, darling, are getting screwed. And so that's a lot, not all of it, but a lot of the news that's going on with Joe Biden. And to kind of hopefully lighten the mood a little bit, comedians are having a lot of fun with Joe Biden these days, and two of them are Dana Carvey and David Spade. I want to show you something. I found this. This is just funny. I thought you guys might enjoy it after listening to all that Biden news. So do me a favor. This runs about 39 seconds. Check this out.
I like when he's had a long day and he gets really tired and he kind of spaces out and then he itches his nose. Yeah, because that's the thing about the people. And there's some people who said, what are they doing? Okay. Stupid. So dumb.
What was he looking into the sun after?
Well, I just thought at the end he would look like E.T., you know. Where's the mothership? I like when...
Oh, you know, I love old school comics like that. I really do. These guys are a load of fun. Yeah. And look, Dana Carvey, to me, is what comedy used to be, in that they are equal opportunity offenders. Okay? Absolute. They'll take a shot at everybody. Doesn't matter if you're a Democrat or a Republican. And which reminds me of something. There's a guest that I need to send out an invite to. See if I can get him on here. And oh God. Joe Biden has squintier eyes than X-Ray Girl? Oh my goodness. Well, you may be right. Yeah, there's somebody I need to send out an invitation. I've been thinking about this for a while, and I need to get them on here because daggone it, it'd be too funny. But yeah, I mean, even comedians now are starting to be like, I mean, assuming you're not talking about Colbert or Kimmel or Fallon or somebody like that. Although I can't really give Fallon too much crap. I mean, Jimmy Fallon's kind of equal. He's still, you know, that old school sort of, I'll take a shot at anybody, but Kimmel and Colbert are in the bag for Biden. It's just ridiculous. Colbert especially. God, he's awful. But yeah, this is what's going on with Biden right now. So what's going on with Donald Trump, you might ask? Well, he's still up in New York City. He's still involved in this case that's going on in Manhattan. He gets basically 1 day a week off, which is Wednesday, and the weekend. Otherwise, for the next 4 more weeks, probably, he's going to be stuck up in New York City. So what's he doing, you might ask? Check this out.
Real quick, Trump's just outside of a fire station after leaving court. He's got pizza for the guys. This is typical Trump. Let's poke in and see what he's up to right there. And Joe Biden, he can walk up to a firehouse, a police station. He can walk into a boardroom, a bowling alley, or a bar and have a conversation with absolutely anybody. We don't have any audio on him right now, but apparently he's going inside to talk to these firefighters, which is, by the way, right outside the studio, folks. This is incredible. The fact that he leaves court, goes and campaigns with these people, and it goes in campaigns with ordinary people, not high-dollar fundraisers with Lizzo like Joe Biden did recently. Real quick, Trump's...
Now, we've been talking about this for a while here on the live stream. That's great. Well, I mean, look, you got to do something to raise money for all these legal costs. I mean, maybe Trump's like, I could be the best. I could be a beautiful DoorDash driver. I could be the best ever. I'd be beautiful. It'd be great. It'd be fantastic. Imagine the reaction that people have when I come to their door. It would be amazing. Just huge, huge. Maybe that's what he's doing. Hey, I got to raise some money to cover these legal costs somehow. That's great, Gypsy. But yeah, I mean, you see what's going on here. Now, and I've said for weeks now, the worst mistake politically that the Democrats made was putting Donald Trump in New York City and nailing his foot to the floor for 6 weeks with his trial. I mean, the trial is bad on so many different levels, okay? It really is. I mean, from a legal standpoint, culturally, it's bad for a number of reasons. Regardless of whether you like Trump, don't like him, whatever, this trial is awful, okay? But from a political standpoint, the Democrats have royally screwed up. You've heard that old expression, you've just let the fox in the hen house. That's this. That's Donald Trump walking into a bodega in New York City. That's Donald Trump walking into a firehouse somewhere in Manhattan. That's Donald Trump going over to the Bronx. That's Donald Trump talking to construction workers before he goes into the courtroom. I mean, the Trump campaign and Donald Trump himself has said, man, I want to do rallies in the Bronx. I want to do a rally at Madison Square Garden. I want to do this. Do it. Do it. I mean, look, if they're going to nail your foot to the floor up there, dude, take advantage of it. Now, do I think that Donald Trump is going to necessarily win New York State? I'd love to see it happen, but I'll be shocked if it does. But then again, I'd make as much hay as I possibly could. Let him have it. Go into the Bronx. Go into Harlem. Go into Brooklyn. Go into all the 5 boroughs. Absolutely make the Democrats sweat. Make Joe Biden have to spend money in New York City and New York State. Do it. Absolutely do it. Talk to the people. Let them see who you are. There's a lot of working class folks in the 5 boroughs that, man, they see this guy coming. They're willing to shake hands with him, talk to him. May not agree with him on everything, but they're like, hey, man, you're one of us. I mean, look, I understand why Biden and his people did this. And please don't give me, well, they did it for legal reasons and for the good of the country. No, you did it because you wanted to take your political opponent and put him in a courtroom and try to get him off the campaign trail and get him distracted. Well, the problem with that is you've turned the fox loose in the hen house. His foot, I keep repeating this, but it's true. His foot is nailed to the floor in New York City. Fine. After the trial ends of the day, he'll go talk to some people. You might not know where he might show up. Now, I know his campaign people, they're going to make sure they know exactly where he's showing up, but you get my point. From the Democrats' perspective, they don't know where he's going to show up. and when it's going to be put on TV, local TV, or in a local newspaper. And when I say local newspaper, I mean like the little weekly paper. If they even do that sort of thing in New York City, I don't know. But you get my point. You're giving him a chance to run around New York City, and it wouldn't surprise me if he slips down into New Jersey one of these nights. Yeah, keep on doing it. But it gets even better for Trump. Not to say that everything is wine and roses, don't get me wrong. This is from Politico. I guess this just came out, when was this? Yeah, it came out just yesterday evening, as a matter of fact. Check this out. Here we go. Trump campaign says it raised more than $76 million in April. Trump is expected to hold fundraisers in the coming weeks in Kentucky, New York, Nevada, Houston, and Dallas. I bet you I know where he's going in Kentucky. I bet you he's going to Lexington. All that horse money's down there. But anyway. Alex Eisenstadt, author of the article, former President Trump's political operation raised more than $76 million in April, campaign officials told donors on Saturday. Trump advisors revealed the number, up from $65.6 million in March, during a presentation at a private Trump campaign and RNC-hosted donor retreat, according to a person familiar with the discussion and granted anonymity to speak freely. The campaign did not provide further details of the fundraising haul, which will be released in filings later this month. Trump is facing a significant cash deficit in the presidential race. Through the end of April, Joe Biden raised more than twice as much money in the bank as Trump, according to the campaign disclosures. Still, Trump's fundraising has increased since he became the presumptive nominee in early March, and advisors have argued that he will raise enough money to compete. But yeah, I'm going to say something's going to sound counterintuitive, especially given everything I know about campaigns. Money is important, and I'm not saying it isn't, and I'm not saying that those campaign ads that you're running on TV or on social media are not, are not valuable. But this race ain't going to necessarily come down to money. Joe Biden can raise all the money he wants. But to borrow an old expression from my neck of the woods, you can't shine a turd. Okay? You can raise all the money you want to, but if you got a crappy record on economics, and you got a crappy record on immigration, and you got a crappy record on foreign policy, you cannot shine that turd. Okay? It doesn't matter how much money you spend doing it. So there's that going on. Now, there's a couple other pieces of Trump news. By the by. Did you? I'm sorry. TBA over on WWG1. I am so sorry. I have not looked over at Rumble in a little while, and I apologize to both of you. Thank you for being here this morning. Let me check out some of your comments here. Yeah, glad to have both of you here. I am so sorry for ignoring you up to this point. I haven't looked over. I saw that Gypsy was in the room, but I didn't see anybody else at this point. But glad to have you all here. Or lipstick on a pig. Exactly, TBA. You got that right. But yeah. By the by, have you heard that Google is trying to take down one of Trump's ads because, according to Google, it violates their guidelines? Now, and for the record, let me just say up front, I have not seen an independent story about this. I've heard this floated around on Twitter. Now, I'll be honest with you. But I wouldn't be surprised if it to be true. And given who this is coming from, their veracity in these matters, I believe. But let me show you what the ad looks like. So do me a favor. This runs about 30 seconds. It's a 30-second ad. But check this out.
Hello, I'm with the Biden campaign.
Yeah, I voted for Biden last time.
That's fantastic.
Is it? Everything costs more. Food, gas, rent.
Okay, but Biden's helping pay rent for newcomers to America from around the world.
You mean illegal immigrants? I'm struggling to pay my bills, but Biden's paying rent for illegals? They get handouts and I'm paying for it.
But Biden can still count on your vote, right?
Things were better before Biden. I'm voting for Trump.
Make America Great Again Inc. is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Now, if it is true that this ad is being taken down, are you surprised? Would you be surprised to find out that Google has taken down this ad? I have to say it. That ad is devastatingly effective. It really is. So, like I say, I have not seen this independently reported anywhere. But would I be surprised to find out that's true? Nope. Not at all. I really wouldn't. There is one cautionary thing that's going on with Trump right now, and I know there's nothing that I can do about it per se, or maybe, who knows? I never know who's watching my videos or my live streams. Maybe there's somebody out there who's got more influence than I do. But there's one thing that's worrying me right now. And again, the worry doesn't mean I'm going to be able to do anything about it, but it's starting to scare me to death, and it's the potential for Trump's vice presidential pick. Now, look, no one knows what Trump's going to do except for Trump himself, okay? But there are names that are being floated, and there's one name in particular that I'm just sitting there going, oh, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. So let's get into this. This is an article from thehill.com by Alexander Bolton. GOP. Nome is up in smoke. Scott and Burgum rise in Trump Veep race. Republican senators. Oh, okay. Now maybe I should be worrying less, but I'll explain that in a minute. Republican senators say South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem's viability as a vice presidential candidate has gone up in smoke after she admitted to shooting a 14-month-old puppy, and they are looking to other contenders to round out former President Trump's ticket. Republican lawmakers who have spoken to Trump says he will be strategic in his choice and that loyalty will be a top consideration. Okay, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that at all. I'm fine with that. But it's the names that are being floated that scare me to death. Let's get back into the article. Several GOP senators are touting Senator Tim Scott, Republican South Carolina, as their pick for Trump's running mate. These lawmakers argue Trump should pick someone who is black, Hispanic, or a woman to broaden the Republican ticket's appeal to key demographics in this year's election. Okay, that... stupid, idiot, bonehead, moron, jackasses. Oh, you fools. And yes, for you Republican lawmakers that are pushing this idea, you are idiots. First class, grade A, 100%, all-American made idiots. You will not get more voters by pandering to them. Okay? Oh, we put a black guy on the ticket. That means we're going to get more black votes. Ooh, we put a woman on the ticket. We're going to get more women's votes. Ooh, we put a black Hispanic woman on the ticket. We're going to get everybody's votes. No, you moron. You get votes by standing firm on a set of policies that appeal not just to blacks, not just to women, not just to Hispanics, but to everyone. We've seen how your strategy works, okay? Whenever you guys do this in your congressional and Senate races, your candidates lose. You want to know why? Because they might tick, you might be able to check off, okay, I got a black man, I got a Hispanic woman, I got a whatever. But they lose. You know why? Because it's the policies that people are looking at. It's that kind of thinking You know, it's that kind of thinking that's a demonstration of why it is that Republicans are the Washington Generals to the Democrats' Harlem Globetrotters when it comes to electoral politics. Hang on one second. Don't worry, folks, I'm still here. Just didn't want to, had to wipe the schnoz. I didn't want to like freak anybody out. But you get what I'm saying? It's that same stupid, idiotic. They want to grow the party and they don't know how to do it. But yet they purport themselves to be the wizards of smart. And they tell Trump, hey, do this, do this. You know, hey, do this, do this. Yeah, exactly. It just boggles the mind. TBA over on Rumble says Republicans and Democrats are the same party. Yeah, no, it's not a pee break, a wipe the nose break. Just didn't want to be very rude doing that in front of y'all. Anyway, back to this article. And many would like Trump to pick a running mate who could reassure mainstream and moderate Republicans who didn't vote for him in the primary or who stayed home in 2020. Again, it's that same stupid mentality with these elected Republicans in Congress. They're gonna make me throw a temper tantrum the more I read this article. They're gonna make me throw a tantrum. Ugh. Stupid thinking. But GOP senators say Noem, who had previously thought to be on the short list for a potential Veep candidate, has destroyed her chances after revealing she shot a 14-month-old German wire-hair pointer named Cricket because it behaved poorly. Quote, she's just done too much drama, said one Republican senator who stays in touch with Trump. The senator said Trump has expressed interest in North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum, who has spoken approvingly about his moderate position on abortion, an issue Democrats want to put front and center. Burgum, who had a short-lived run in the presidential primary, also has a net worth in excess of $1.1 billion. I wonder if he's looking for a long-lost son. If he is, I'll volunteer. Putting him on an elite level in terms of personal wealth. Trump has spoken disapprovingly of Kari Lake, according to the source, because she lost her 2022 gubernatorial bid in Arizona and is now viewed by Senate GOP strategists as having an uphill path to win retiring Kristen Sinema's seat. You know, the more I'm reading this article, the more I'm becoming convinced that I'm starting to wonder if this article is not meant to get under the nose of Donald Trump and keep him from doing what he's thinking about doing. Because this is coming from Republican senators. I smell a rat. I smell a big rat, y'all. I'm telling you. Well, let's talk about this briefly for a second. And I know that my good friend Christian Watson is here. And as I said, folks, he'll be here this Wednesday night, 7 p.m. Eastern. So put it on your calendars. Trump's Veep choice, I've said this before and I'll say it again, has got to be somebody. I agree with loyalty. Okay. Yes. After 4 years of Mike Pence stabbing you in the back, not just Pence, his staffers, and then Mike Pompeo and other people inside the administration. Okay. I get the argument that says we need somebody loyal. I don't disagree with that in the slightest. But you also need somebody that agrees with you on policy. Furthermore, and this is my take on it, you need somebody that is the future. In my ideal world, okay, if I'm waving the magic wand and declaring all things political, I would set Donald Trump up with an America First MAGA candidate. Trump wins the 2024 race. Trump works like the devil to get his vice president into the presidency in 28. get him reelected in 32, and on down the road we go. In other words, the reverse of what happened in the 1980s. 2 terms of Reagan, 1 term of Herbert Walker Bush. In this case, it'd be 1 term of Trump, 2 terms of his Veep, if you get the right Veep. I mean, to me, there are all kinds of good people out there. You know, and this is in deference to Christian. I know that he's very high on Vivek Ramaswamy. I'm pretty high on J.D. Vance, although we might disagree on that. And that's one of the things that we'll discuss Wednesday night, by the way. But there are a lot of good people out there. Byron Donalds wouldn't be a bad pick. And notice, I'm not picking them on the basis of the color of their skin. I'm picking them on the basis of where are they in terms of ideas? Where are they in terms of the America First MAGA movement? Donald Trump is not going to be on the political scene forever. And this is not, and the thing is, even if he gets in, the Democrats are going to do to him what they did in 2017. They'll wait him out. They'll put roadblocks in his way. They'll try to slow him down so that even if he gets some or part of his agenda in, it may or may not have the full effect. Okay? And by the way, a lot of the problems that we have in this country are not going to be fixed by electing Donald Trump. A lot of our problems go way deeper than that. If Andrew Breitbart was right that politics is downstream from culture, we got to fix some cultural stuff in this country long before we worry about the president. Fix the cultural stuff, the presidential stuff gets a whole lot easier to deal with. All right. But yeah, they're throwing around names like Tim Scott. They're throwing around names like Marco Rubio. And I'm sitting going, oh, God, no. Not pandering. Ideas. That's how Donald Trump should pick his Veep. Anyway. Well, it is about 10 minutes after 12 on Sunday. My name is Brian Trippett. I am the Front Porch Conservative. We got a wonderful little crowd of folks here with us over on Rumble and over on Twitter and YouTube, by the way. So if you haven't done it yet, hit the thumbs up button, share the video around, share the link. You know, let's get this out to as many people as we possibly can, because I ask you, where can you go and get all of this plus political commentary? It's not often you got to face this pretty on the internet. All right. Let's shift gears, and we'll throw in some hodgepodge stew for this Sunday session of Front Porch Brunch. Now, for those of you who've never been here before, hodgepodge stew are those stories that are important, but they're maybe not the highest priority on the internet website, or as the old expression goes, above the fold for people who still read newspapers. And this first story kind of cracks me up for so many different reasons. And bless her heart, Drew Barrymore. I think Drew Barrymore is probably one of the sweetest people you'll ever. I mean, I have never heard an unkind word said of Drew Barrymore. I've heard some things that have happened to Drew Barrymore over the course of her life that are really, they make me feel bad for her. But as far as her personally, I've never heard an unkind word said of her. Now, maybe it has. And yeah, TBA, that's what I was talking about, because I've heard that that she was abused as a child. So I've got nothing bad to say about Drew Barrymore, but bless her heart, every so often on her talk show, she will do something that just makes me go, oh. And needless to say, that happened this week. She had Vice President Kamala Harris on, who we here on the Electronic Front Porch refer to as Vice President Idaho. So Idaho goes on Drew Barrymore's show. Yeah, exactly. a very sweet person who's just not that well informed. But I think she's got a good heart. I really do. So Vice President Idaho goes on Drew Barrymore's show this week, and we have one of the more cringeworthy clips from the 2024 election. Y'all, do me a favor, check this out.
I've been thinking that we really all need a tremendous hug in the world right now. Yeah. But in our country, we need you to be Mamala of the country.
Okay. So we need Mamala. Well, I don't know. Bless her heart. I don't know if Drew is aware of this or not, but Mamala in Spanish translates suck it. There you go. Yeah. So, Drew, I know you're well-intentioned, honey, but you do realize that you may be asking people to refer to, Vice President Kamala Harris as suck it in Spanish when they call her Mamala, right? Just saying. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's Kamala. That's my nickname for Kamala Harris. Because, I mean, after all, M169, everybody knows that she loves potatoes. Skinny potatoes, fat potatoes, long potatoes, short potatoes. That woman will get on her hands and knees and crawl over all kinds of ground to get her lips wrapped around a good potato. Hence, that's why we call her Vice President Idaho. So there you go. Anyway, so yeah, Drew, honey, bless your heart. Oh, by the way, have you guys heard about the new TV show that's coming out? This is pretty good. It's a merger of politics and comedy, as if politics couldn't be funny enough. Have you guys heard about the new show that's coming out? Do me a favor and check this out. They've got some clips. I'm not gonna play all of it, but I think you guys will get a kick out of it. I don't know, y'all. This thing seems strangely familiar.
Just what I needed now. A wino and a rhino.
Well, Pop, you gonna help me with this garden now?
Son, I did my part. I got us a scarecrow. This is guaranteed to scare away slugs and snails and birds. Just remember that the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away. Hallelujah! And you remember when you looked in the mirror tonight, the Lord gave you that face and you stuck with it.
I don't know, guys. That one might have some possibilities out there. I'm just saying. They might be onto something. I'm just saying, might be onto something there. Oh yeah, I need to put that one in chat. That's just too good. That's just too good. Hang on, let me drop that one in. You can watch that one on your leisure time. Let me see if I can find that real fast on Twitter. Drop it in on the Rumble side. Give me a second here. Talk amongst yourselves for a second. I'll be right back. Just about there. Hang on, y'all. Yeah, here it is. Here it is. Okay. I've got it now. I'm dropping it into... There we are. Yeah, the Lord gave you that face and you're stuck with it. Oh, speaking of which, Z Highness, have you ever heard the story about Winston Churchill and Lady Astor? It's a similar story to that. And I will admit up front, the story is something of legend. It's not totally true, but it's hysterical. This story's been passed down for generations now. Many years ago now, in London, there was a party held at some hotel somewhere. And the Lady Astor got on an elevator, and Churchill got on about one floor up from that, and he was 3 sheets in the wind, drunk as could be. And finally, when the elevator door opens to the floor that Winston Churchill's going to get off on, Lady Astor pushes him away and says, "Winston, you're drunk." And he looked at her and said, "Yes, madam, and you're ugly. And in the morning I can be sober, but you will still be ugly." The elevator door shut, and he could hear her raging as the elevator went up the shaft. Kind of similar to that whole, the Lord gave you that face and you're stuck with it line. All right, what else is going on? Democrats have a problem. Justice Department came down against one of their own, and yeah. From the New York Post, Democrat Representative Henry Cuellar, indicted for allegedly accepting $600,000 in foreign bribes, faces bipartisan call to resign. Article by John Levine and Mary Kay Ling. Indicted Democrat Representative Henry Cuellar is now facing a bipartisan call to resign from Congress. Representative Jeff Lawler and Jeff Van Drew on Saturday became the first sitting Republicans to say the Texas moderate should step down in the wake of federal bribery charges. Whether Cuellar decides to stay or go, Democrats are almost certainly stuck with him on the ballot for the November election, meaning that the charges could potentially help Republicans keep control of the House. Quote, "If you've been indicted by the DOJ, you should resign for the good of the institution," Lawler, representative from New York, first-term congressman representing Rockland County, told the Post. Well, there you go. And what else is going on? We'll end it today on some good news. Do you guys remember this picture? Yeah, if you haven't seen this, this is an image, a still shot of some young men at University of North Carolina, fraternity brothers, from what I understand, or at least they're called frat boys. They may or may not be, but that's their general nickname, the UNC frat boys. And in this picture, they are standing around the flagpole protecting the American flag while pieces of ice, water bottles, various objects are being hurled at them. Okay. And this was during some of the protests that have been going on across the country. Well, that image, as I said, has made its way around social media. Well, it got the attention of one particular individual, and he's offering to do something pretty cool for these young men. And I take you to the pages of thepostmillennial.com. Country singer John Rich to throw epic concert for flag-defending UNC frat boys. Quote, "Somebody raised these guys correctly," said Rich. Article written by Katie Davis Court. Country singer John Rich commended the bravery of the young North Carolina college students who prevented the American flag from being desecrated during a pro-Palestinian demonstration on campus. Because of their outstanding deeds, the famous country musician is working with UNC Chapel Hill to stage an enormous concert on campus that would be free of charge to students, Fox News reports. The concert, dubbed Flagstock, would feature additional notable musicians in what Rich intends to be one of the biggest events of the year. This comes after viral photos and footage surfaced on Twitter of a group of college boys attempting to save the American flag from falling to the ground as pro-Palestinian agitators attempted to remove it from the flagpole. The patriotic moment captured Rich's attention. He told Fox News, quote, "I was so impressed that, first of all, someone had taught them that you never let the American flag touch the ground under any circumstances. Somebody raised these guys correctly. They understand what's going on," John Rich added. I think that when people, especially young people, have enough guts and determination to proclaim their love of the country and show their respect for the flag, when it's an inconvenient moment, when it's tough to do, they deserve to be recognized for that, John Rich said. And I'm hoping that we recognize them in such a huge way. I hope it ignites the same passion all across the country. The young patriotic men not only garnered attention from the country singer, but the same group received overwhelming praise for their, quote, heroic actions from millions of Americans on social media. Before long, a GoFundMe was set up to reward the students for their actions with a party. The fundraiser, entitled Pi Kappa Phi Men Defending Their Flag, Throw 'em a Rager. I love that. Raised $516,000 in donations, with the GoFundMe for donations being closed at midnight on Friday. Holy cow. That is great. That is great. Oh, man. I mean, look. There's not a lot of modern day country musicians that I really like. And it's not because I personally, if I got to know him, I probably wouldn't get along with him. But John Rich is one of my favorites. Okay. Not necessarily because John Rich is conservative. He's just a great songwriter and he knows good music. Personally, I hope that if this concert comes off, this thing turns into the biggest outdoor party and good patriotic time North Carolina's seen in a long time. But that's just me. Well, I'll tell you what, that wraps it up for this edition of Front Porch Brunch. I want to thank all of you for being here. Again, if you have not hit the like button on both YouTube and Rumble, please do so. I would genuinely appreciate it. And continue to share live streams and videos far and wide. I swear I'm going to try and get back on the horse this week as far as getting some videos out. I think it's just high time that happens. But anyway, do me a favor. You guys have a great Sunday. Remember, Christian Watson is going to be here this Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to start advertising it far and wide, and it's going to be a good time because Christian, he's always got an opinion about something and shares it in one of the most classy ways imaginable. So he's a young man that I really enjoy having conversations with. So do me a favor. You guys continue to have a great weekend. Spend some time with your families. Tell them you love them. And remember, as always, the words of that great American philosopher, Tom T. Hall, when he said, "It's faster horses, younger lovers, older whiskey, and more money." Hey, folks, we'll see you later.